Alrighty, and welcome to Let's Get At It, episode 4. It is January 15th, 2026. I'm here today with Stefan Feiler, the co-founder of Smartbettor.ai, good friend of Micah Blackburn, a future guest of the Let's Get At It podcast, somebody who I know well from the University of Michigan. Stefan is building Smartbettor because maybe was not the best sports handicapper in the past. However, he's figured out ways to find profitable trends to make sports betting less of a gamble and more of a certainty. Stefan, thanks for joining.
Thanks, Drew. It's a pleasure to be here. This is really exciting. Yeah, let's get into it, man. Let's go.
Let's get at it, shall we? All right, so I start these with an icebreaker, and Stefan asked me a question. He's like, hey, before the pod, give any questions that you could potentially send me. And I created a Google Doc just to organize my thoughts after the first one. And so I just sent it to him. Stefan copies the doc, sends me one yesterday of him answering these as if it were an English class. And he provided an unbelievable response to about all these different questions. The first question that I ask is, if I were to give you $50,000, I want you to turn that into $1 million in the next 2 months. This is a very tall task, and I want you to 20x my money that I give you. I'm just curious how your gears turn. And Stefan said this, he says, simple. There really is no other option than getting that kind of return in 60 days. And better yet, it's actually guaranteed. First, I'd walk to the Circa Resort and Hotel in Vegas. Then I call up my friend, Jeffrey Benson, the sportsbook director, and tell him to start counting out the 1 million right now. I'd ask him to take a damn mortgage out on it. It's already good as cash. Once I grabbed the $50K from my backpack, I would put it on the Denver Broncos to beat the Seattle Seahawks in Super Bowl 60, February 7th, 2026. And then he goes on to say he would never do that. He would never gamble that away. But you can just tell from the first response on who Stefan really is. But Stefan, please, with this question in mind, who are you doing this with? Where are you doing it? And how are you 20xing this to 1 mil in 60 days?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I mean, if I knew how to 20x K into 1 mil in 60 days, I certainly wouldn't be here right now. Yeah,
You wouldn't be
I think
talking to me right now if you just 20x your money like that?
I would be buying your company out from under you right now, or I'd be your biggest investor or something like that.
That's how you truly 20x.
That's how you truly 20x. Yeah, I mean, I think that kind of relates to the foundational thesis of the company Smartbettor. When I was in college, I was absolutely dead broke. And it was kind of when sports betting was, just beginning to flourish. In 2018, there was a Supreme Court ruling in 2018 that basically, sparked some new legislation that allowed online sports betting to operate in this kind of gray area, aka it became not illegal. And when I was in college, now all of a sudden, every guy and their brother are opening up sports books, right? And everyone is running a sports book in a different way. Every sports book has different, risk tolerances. They have, different players. They need to manage the money. They need to attract, money on certain sides of bets to, lower their exposure to other sides of bets, which created for a financial market, right? Because you can think of sports contracts as a financial instrument. You're trading a fixed price contract based on an outcome, right, of a sports game. So you're dealing with a financial market where there's about 60 different prices. There's John's Sportsbook, there's DraftKings, there's FanDuel, there's Circa, there's Sports Illustrated had a sportsbook, Maxim Bet, the pornographic magazine had a sportsbook. I mean, everyone had a sportsbook. Everyone had different prices on these bets. And so I, being a naive college student, I wanted to 50x my money as fast as possible, and started diving into the idea that there are ways to kind of trade these price differences in this very immature financial market, right? When you see an immature financial market, that typically lends itself to the idea that there are inefficiencies. When you have 60 different prices trading the same contract, there could be inefficiencies. So that's kind of where I started this idea in the first place, is trying to 20x my money in 60 days, being a dead broke college student.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
How
Hope
bad
that wasn't
of
too
a
long.
sports bettor did you have to be in order to be like, I've had enough of just trying this myself. I need to automate this.
Yeah, exactly. So the idea here is basically like, When there's 60 different prices out for the same bet on the sports book, right? The idea here is that you want to figure out whose price is most accurate. Okay. So let's say that based on the prices, DraftKings thinks that the Denver Nuggets have a 50% chance to win the game, to win this upcoming game, right? But FanDuel thinks that they have a 55% chance, and BetMGM thinks that they have a 60% chance, right? So if you can figure out which price is most accurate, and then you can just buy the price that's a better deal than the one that's most accurate, right? So, if DraftKings thinks that the Nuggets have a 50% chance to win, that means they'll pay out 2 to 1, right? You wager 100, you get returned 200 for a profit of 100. But if BetMGM thinks that they have a 60% chance to win, and you go in and you wager $100, you'll make out 140 for a profit of $40, right? So now it's like, okay, what is the fair price, right? Which one is fair? Is DraftKings fair and BetMGM is a really bad deal, or is BetMGM fair and DraftKings is a really, really good deal? Okay, so that's kind of the thesis behind this whole thing. I started trading this idea thinking that I could 20x my money in 60 days because some influencers online were selling me their product that, told me that I could do that. And it turns out that there are a lot of nuances when you try to do this. Okay. There's a lot of different nuances. In this industry, people think, oh, don't trade player props on FanDuel, even if it looks like it's a good price because X, Y, and Z. Don't trade, spreads on Pinnacle, even though it looks like it's a really good price because of X, Y, and Z. And so I said, well, what the fuck? Isn't this an inefficient financial market? Can't you just like trade as much as possible and let the math take care of itself, right? I mean, that's how this is supposed to work. I was an economics major in college. That's how this is supposed to work. Turns out there are just some kind of hidden rules. And so we developed some AI to train on these really, really large data sets of sports betting odds and their movement and their correlated sports books to try to identify when these bets that look like they're really good prices are good prices, and when there might be something shady going on, you should probably avoid this bet, even though it looks like it's a really good price. So that's the nerdy version of how we got started. Yeah. To answer your question in a short-winded way, I was a really bad sports bettor to try to figure this out. I was so sick of it. It feels like you always lose, right? Like when we talk to people who
How do
are,
they
who
how
are
does the book always know? Look, I get it. They have
gotcha.
these numbers, they crunch them. There's robots now. It's not just some guys sitting at a table. But how is it when it's a shootout and the over-under was 52.5? I'm talking about the Bears-Niners game, like week 17, when that was back and forth on Sunday night. But it was Niners minus 3.5. And
Hmm.
somehow everything's a touchdown and the Bears get a field goal at the end and then the Niners score a touchdown and the Niners cover the 3.5. And you're like, how do you know? Every single time. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah. Okay. So there's two methods that the sports books use to make sure that they get it right every single time. The first one is they do pay, some of the best data scientists in the world. They have on their payroll hundreds of millions of dollars worth of data scientists crunching numbers, building extremely complex models to try to predict, okay, what's the proper spread, right? Is it going to be 2.5, 3.5, 4.5? What is it? That's the first way that they do it. And they open up the line. So it's called, what did the line open at? Okay, let's say that the line opened at 4.5. And then they allow the really smart bettors, the profitable bettors, the guys who come in and lay 4 bets a year, the guys who come in and they just lay 4 bets a year, and each of those bets is worth 100K, 200K, $1 million, only high conviction bets, basically. And they come and let in these really sharp bettors place their bets, and then they say, okay, all the sharp money is on Niners minus 2.5, which means that we should probably move that to 3.5, right? Like everyone is seeing that 2.5 is the good line. So they move it to 3.5. That's the first kind of function of the sports books. That's how they set their kind of like basic lines. And that's how it worked for, 30 years, since like the 1980s, or your bookie down on the corner, or however it was. When the dumb people were betting on a bet, they would keep that line. When the smart people were betting on a bet, they would adjust accordingly. However, nowadays, what they do is it's actually much more manipulative. What they do is they actually don't try to predict the actual outcome of the game. They try to predict human betting behavior such that they will always trick you into placing the wrong bet. So nowadays, instead of saying, we think the Bears, they run all these algorithms, the Niners. 50% of the time, the Niners are going to win by more than 3 points. 50% of the time, they're going to win by 3 points or less, right? Instead of saying that anymore, they say that we know, okay, that the Niners, let's say 90% of the time, are going to win by 6.5 points because they have those guys in the back crunching those numbers, okay? But we know that the public is all over the Bears. So what are we going to do? We're going to set a certain line that makes it so enticing to bet on the Bears that everyone and their brother is going to bet on the Bears, even though it's a very unfair price. They trick you into that. So they basically say they run these models to identify where the people are going to be betting based on sentiment, based on teams' popularities. When Tyreek Hill was scoring a bunch of touchdowns, everyone was betting on Tyreek Hill to score a touchdown every single week. They can price that. They can identify what the people are going to be betting on and then set a very manipulative line such that they trick you into placing the wrong bet every single time. That's how they
It's
do it. Sorry,
amazing
long-winded
system.
answer.
Well, it
Yeah,
should be
it
a
is.
long-winded answer because this is what you're doing, and you're an absolute expert in something that I could be far better at, and I'm sure a lot of other people can, but that's the whole point, right? You're not there to make money. Like every time you wager, whether that be 220, 200, 2,000, whatever you might think, that money is as good as gone. And I get to watch the
Yeah.
game and fully invested in it. But with Smartbettor.ai, I looked at the website and it sounds like you guys hand out these value picks. And so you guys, I'm assuming, find these picks through the best price on the market. And then you pretty much say there's so much value here. We're not going to guarantee that this bet wins. And please sign the terms and conditions because we're not liable for your betting habits. But the Nuggets -5 is a lock, according to Smartbettor AI. Is that true?
Right. Yeah, it's more so like the Nuggets -5 at this price is a really good price. Like the idea is if you are someone who logs in and deposits money to your sports betting account every Sunday, every Saturday, whatever it is, if you're just kind of a casual bettor, right? If you don't use systems like ours, you will basically watch that money evaporate, just absolutely evaporate.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it does. But if you use systems like ours, if you're a losing bettor, okay, it'll evaporate a lot slower, right? Instead of losing your full $100 every Saturday, you lose 65 and you have money left over. It's a slower burn. It keeps you in the game for longer if you're going to be, kind of that impulsive, that guy in the frat basement who just wants to, place his bets. It's a slower burn, and then if you're very, very diligent about it and you're always placing these proper bets, it's long term very profitable. The issue there is that you have to place like 100 bets to weed out the variance in order to run out the variance
Yeah.
and watch that.
Now in Illinois, there's like a 50-cent state tax on every bet you place for those low unit bettors. Myself, you can't even throw like a $1 like Hail Mary parlay because you're, taking 50% of that's untaxed, which is just garbage. But it's really
Totally.
incredible how you guys are able to not take advantage of a system, but to be able to notice that something so young and so immature that there has to be a better way to give people an advantage.
Exactly. Exactly. I think you're exactly right.
So I love the idea. I want to get into Smart Better more. Towards the end of this, we'll talk about maybe our picks for the weekend because we have I know you're a Broncos fan, it sounds like, and I'm a big Bears fan, and we can talk about those games. But I really
Uh-huh.
want to talk about I want to talk about the team of Smart Better AI because on Let's Get At It, we're not just focused on the business, we're focused on the people. That's what makes it work. That's what turns a great idea into something that can actually sustain. That's what turns a fine idea into something that will still work because at the end of the day, it's how long can you stay in the game? And from reading your responses in this, it really sounds like A, you have an awesome team. B, you really care for your health and yourself. And C, you have a great family and a great father who gave you phenomenal advice that I'm going to read here in just a moment. But you have co-founders at SmartBettor AI. I just have one co-founder in Alex Stern. But these co-founders are not just some person you met in college. No disrespect to Alec, but we've only known each other for 6 years. You're with Micah Blackburn, who is your long-term best friend, and you're also with your older brother. That is a phenomenal combination. Does it get any better than that?
No, it doesn't get any better than that. It really does not get any better than that. Yeah, I seriously can't put into words the amount of importance that these two guys have had on me in my life. They've always been there. My brother literally has always been there since I was born. And Mike and I met when we were like, 10 years old or something like that. It really does not get any better. Being able to build a company with people who know you so well, who you can work with so well. When we ever come to disagreements, we're so able to work through them and work on them collaboratively rather than, getting upset at each other or pulling us apart. It's almost like once we come to the conclusion of a disagreement, we're way closer than we were beforehand. We're actually energized to go work on the solution rather than annoyed at the compromise that we've made, if that makes sense.
It makes plenty of sense because if you treat it like I win or you lose in this conversation. This is quote from Alex's mom, who is a psychotherapist. In a relationship, if there is a winner and there is a loser, you both are losers. And I feel that it's the same way in a co-founder partnership or trio, because the goal here is not for me to be right or for you to be right. The goal here is for us to figure out the right solution. And I know you were a lacrosse player. You played in college. And so being an athlete really allows you to understand that I could have an unbelievable game and we can lose. I could have a really bad game and we can win. Why am I playing this game? I'm playing so the team can win because you're playing lacrosse, a very team sport. I played baseball, a sport that's not only a team sport, but a sport that is in very failure oriented, where you will fail 7 out of 10 times at the plate and you'll be one of the best hitters on the team. And I'm very accustomed to pretty much saying, look, I'm okay with playing bad as long as the team will win. And it sounds like you, your brother, and Micah have this sense of self accountability. How important is that for you guys to just persevere and stay afloat?
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. It's everything basically. So, there's a joke in kind of like the young startup world, I guess, that so Micah is our CTO, right? And Micah's kind of the one who's primarily building the product, right? Any prototype that we have to make, any new feature that we want to make, Micah's typically the guy who will go in there and make the first prototype. And let's just say he is an engineer at trade and not necessarily a product UI UX designer by trade. There's an old joke, and so we always go back and forth about no, it can't look like that. And he's like, why? I think it looks good. There's an old joke that says if it was up to the CTO, there would be no front end of the app. There would be no user interface. They can just interact with our API and look at the data. But anyway, so yeah, there's always a lot of back and forth, especially when you're building new products between the more product oriented people and the more development oriented people. That is like 90% of the interactions that we have as a company is collaboration, collaborating on design and yeah, and just product functionality. It's funny when I kind of tell my friends, like in the middle of the day, sometimes I'll go lift and I'll go lift with some of my friends, or I'll go do something, for an hour during in the middle of the day. My friends are like, how are you able to do this? Do you not have any calls? I'm like, no, it's not about necessarily taking calls all day. It's not that I don't have to be at my desk all day to take calls, but we collaborate so often, so frequently, so much. I'm always on my phone responding to texts, even if it's just very minute things. My brother Christian will text me something, I'll just, quickly respond to him. Michael will text me something. And we're working on these things together. There's kind of a lead on who's actually clicking away at the keyboard, you know, putting pen to paper, building whatever it is we're building, but we're all working on it together in a sense. So that like open communication just is foundational. And if it's not there, I think you're doomed.
I would completely agree. And I really resonate with the part of not really needing to tell yourself that I need to be at my desk 24/7 or else it's not productive. Because that's crazy. That's crazy to think that just because I'm sitting down at my desk means that I'm productive. There's plenty of times where I'm sitting here and nothing gets done versus when I'm not sitting here and things are getting done. Because that's just momentum. That's how the ball rolls in this game. And it's not about how much can I do today for the output. It's what can we do today in order to stay alive and to continue to pursue. And you talk about going to the gym midday, and in this questionnaire, you answered it by saying you are very into fitness maxing and you are, very I guess health pilled in that sense. My signature question that we ask here on At It is, how do you get at it on the daily? What separates your routine from the rest? You've kind of touched on it a little bit, but really unpack that.
So, I'm definitely kind of health pilled a bit. I think that, you know, I do development work for sure. And I have been in kind of coding binges where we have a really big project coming up that, with a really big due date, and there's a mountain of work in front of you. It's kind of one of those periods where being a founder of a startup, sometimes it feels like there is not as much really palpable work right in front of you, and you kind of have to sit at your desk, and it feels weird not being at your desk. So you are at your desk and you're kind of trying to conjure up new ideas and trying to conjure up tasks to do and things to do and just trying to force it. And then there are other periods in time where there is actually so much to do that it can be extremely overwhelming and you're at your desk for 16 hours a day because you're so scared of what would happen if you didn't get all of these things done. I've been in periods where we've gone through coding binges of 2 or 3 weeks where, I mean, it's really been 18 hours a day at the desk, go to sleep at 2, wake up at 6, back at the desk, just grind out all day. And you can get sucked into that pretty easily, especially when you're developing some software, something like that. You can get sucked into those coding binges very easily. Um, and I think it's important to note that if you work 16 hours a day, right? And this is kind of, I know that this is not like revolutionary, not groundbreaking, especially in the young founder world. People are definitely practicing this idea more frequently nowadays. But if you sleep for 8 or 9 hours a night, you will be more productive in whatever your work day looks like the next day than you would be if you were at your desk for 16 hours a day, right? There is diminishing marginal returns to the amount of hours that you can put in to your work every day. And so I think that is just kind of like the foundation of this health maxing thing. It's just take care of yourself holistically, right? You don't have to wake up at 4:30 in the morning and go work out and go run a marathon before work every day. But if you eat right, if you lift, for men especially, lifting I think really helps control your hormones and just helps give you a better hormonal balance to feel better throughout your days. You will be more productive than if you just forced yourself to sit at your desk all day and be a Mark Zuckerberg in college, and live that type of startup. So that's just kind of where my health maxing comes from. What I do on a daily basis to get at it is I'm in love with this app called Notion. It's like a organization productivity app. And at the start of every week, I map out my week. It's basically just like a big calendar where I list all of the tasks that I need to get done, whether that's in work or personal life, get my laundry done, clean. I got to vacuum the carpet this week, whatever it is. All the tasks that I need to get done for the week, my milestones that I'm going to hit this week. Sometimes there are none. It could be as small as like finish the book I'm reading, or it could be as big as like get the new investment round signed off on. Some milestones, as well as there's a section for just take care of yourself. Just everything I want to do that week, run 6 days a week, lift 6 days a week, eat very well, every day, no alcohol this week, read every night, whatever it is. And then I slot all of those to-dos throughout my week. And every morning I wake up and my like mission for the day is to cross out everything on my to-do list. That is how I get at it every day. To make a very detailed to-do list. Okay, today, no matter what, I have to get this done at work. I have to get that done at work. I have to get this done at work. I have to lift. I have to clean the kitchen. I have to do my laundry. If I get all those things done, I know that, with the system that I've set up for myself, I know that I will be successful. So now it's just a matter of execution. It's not a matter of like being a genius who has all of these ideas and is capable of building $1 billion company. That's not like the challenge. The challenge is just to do the small things every single day. And I'm confident that if I can execute on those small things every single day, the rest will take care of itself. That's how I get at it.
Fascinating, because the ability to organize your thoughts on what needs to get done and then also having the wherewithal to have the energy and motivation to go and attack that, to go and get at it, to go and cross off those to-do lists. I'm with you there. I am a very detail-oriented guy when it comes to what needs to get done. Alec is as well, but we organize ourselves in a different way. He has a phenomenal planner that he goes through and he crosses out, and it's the weekly thing and it's the daily thing. And for me, I used to do that a lot in college when it's like 10:30 to 12 class, 1:30 to 3, workout in between, and then do the homework. And it's super simple because your success and your results are correlated. If I go to class, I have good attendance, I feel good about my body, and I get good grades, I'm doing a good job. That's not the case in an unstructured lifestyle like entrepreneurship, like being a founder. And so being able to give yourself that structure, making that structure, and then holding yourself to that standard, that's where a lot of people can fall into the trap of, look, I don't want anyone to tell me what I need to do, but I also need to have the wherewithal to be my own boss and to keep myself accountable, to have the discipline to go about that business. And I can just tell that you're a psychopath because you describe something called the double carrot method. And you go, every day I execute this system I call the double carrot method. It's simple. You take 2 large raw carrots, the big ones, the ones Bugs Bunny chews, and then you eat them. It's really good for absorbing excess estrogen in your gut that can be produced by consistently going on long zone 2 runs, and supposedly good for your skin as well. What kind of man says that? Somebody that is different, that believes in the system that they do. I ate this shit up. This was phenomenal. Have you eaten your carrots yet today?
Thank you. No, I actually have not eaten my carrots today. I will do that directly after this call. Yeah,
Can
man,
you
the double
actually
carrot
go on,
method.
I want you to go on your Instagram when you're doing that today, and I want you to take a video of you double fisting these carrots, and we're starting something today where it's not just talking about getting at it. I want to show people getting at it, and I'm going to be using hashtag get at it every single day. When I'm in the gym and I'm doing a 2-minute dead hang, when I'm doing work but I take a break to max out on some push-ups, or when I'm going on a run with a treadmill, like whatever it is, how do you get at it outside of just doing work? Because I think that's important and I want to see that.
I can do that. I can do that. I will absolutely do that. Let's get at it.
Let's get at
Let's
it.
get at it.
All right, so that's amazing. You fitness max, you eat well, but there's an interesting juxtaposition that your business and its branding provides, but then also an ethos that you live by. And when I asked you a question here in this questionnaire, and I'll let you answer it yourself, I ask you what's your go-to wind down activity. And for some people, that's playing a video game, others that's reading a book, and for other people, that's staring at a wall. But for somebody that works in the noise, that works in the dopamine, that works in trying to modernize and solve the gambling system and being able to profit off of it, but you believe in stillness, unpack how you really get still at the end of the day and how important that is for you.
Yeah, exactly. I think you're right. Like the juxtaposition there between working in something that is based on stimulation and sparking dopamine. I think that that is what breeds the desire and the need to find stillness. There have definitely been points in my life where gambling way too much every day. You know, Micah and I used to live together. And when that was the case, we basically just lived in a gambling den. And it was awesome, right? It was like the best thing ever, but at the same time, it was the worst thing ever, right? For like, your mental health when you're just living in it constantly. You need to be able to detach from this thing. So I think it's the juxtaposition is created by working in this space. And so, I think that I've just definitely felt those moments where this is, too much, like too much stimulation going on every single day, not enough time to really like reset your nervous system. I kind of mentioned here earlier, I think that especially a lot of young men, we are really good at training our bodies to deal with that stimulation, to be able to handle whatever is thrown at us. Typically, the male, stereotype is that we have to be the providers, we have to be the rock of the family, we have to just handle whatever is thrown at us. If we have a wife and kids and you lose your job,
Being
um, you
nice and
know,
stable, yeah?
be nice and stable, and you lose your job, you can't come home and freak out and cry to your wife. You got to go and pull up your boots and go get a new job the next day, whatever it is, right? I think that translates over to why, a lot of young men love the gym, right? Because it's hard, it hurts, love the burn, feel the burn, right? And men get really, really used to finding pleasure in that stimulation and in that uncomfortability in the gym. And one of the trends, recently has been this dry sauna, right? Especially on social media. And I think that a lot of people do it for the right reasons and a lot of people do it for the wrong reasons. I think that when I'm in there, a lot of people sit down, they bring their phones in, or they have, their headphones on and they're scrolling. And I'm like, no, stop. That's the exact opposite of what you're supposed to be doing in the sauna. The sauna is supposed to be able to train your ability to be still, right? To close your eyes and just feel nothing, right? Meditate, basically, right? When you have that urge to fidget, to check your phone, to take a sip of water, to change positions, whatever it is, right? Like we are so good at training our bodies to deal with intense stimulation and handle whatever's thrown at it that you also be able to have to train the other side and train your body to just accept the feeling of stillness. It's like the yin and yang with it. You have to be able to do both, and that's what makes a really well-rounded person. So yeah, I would that's just kind of one of my little life theses.
Beautifully put. And I think that it's a beautiful thing to be able to build something for the stimulation, but then also represent what is healthy about that. That there is push and there also is pull. And I've been in phases where I'm no dopamine. I won't even listen to music. And I don't even want to do any of that stuff. But then there's other phases where it's like, I can indulge and I can listen to music and I don't need to work out as much. But the best I feel is when everything's just a healthy balance where you're able to eat the right foods and then throw in the dessert that you want or throw in the big meal that you want to go eat with your family. And then
Exactly.
there are the times where you want to work out really hard, but you take 2 days off. And I think it's a beautiful thing to do it because it makes you energized and rested for the other part. And I notice a trend with myself that when in the shower, I'm on the plane, or I'm in a sauna. That is when I am my most still. And what is the correlation between the three? My phone is pretty much do not disturb, because the sauna, my phone gets too hot. The plane, I got no connection. And the shower, I don't want anything to make my phone too wet. Look, I love my phone just like the next guy, but you got to be able to separate it. My answer to this question is simple. First 30 minutes and last 30 minutes of the day are no phone. It goes in the charger, it's far away from my bed, and that's when I can go take my shower, brush my teeth, everything's dark, low lighting, and then go sleep. And then when I wake up, first thing I'm doing is turning off my alarm and then heading to do something else. That might be as simple as foam rolling, drinking water, staring outside. I like to do that sometimes. But the point is really being able to understand how to deal with the lack of stimulation. I think that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, yeah, I think you're exactly right. You sound like you're a little bit of a psychopath as well. Going no
I
like
am
a
a
full
psychopath.
dopamine cleanse. Yeah, no music, dude. Seriously?
It takes one to know one.
You put salt
Look,
on
there
your
was a
food?
time when I ran a half marathon cold just because I was like, "I can do that." Woke up
Yeah,
like
hell yeah.
5:30, just ripped it, and I was like, "No
Let's
music,
go.
none of that." It was great, and then I'm like, "Alright, this is maybe I should probably train for this next time." It's a little more difficult than you'd want that to think, but it was a great experience nonetheless.
I think
But,
when you mentioned that, I got one point there, like running a half
please,
marathon off the couch just to prove that you can do it. I think that one thing that's important, and because I've done that exact same thing before, and I think that it's important to be able to do those hard things just so that you know in the back of your head that you're capable of doing hard things, right? Like when something comes up in your day-to-day life, that you're not necessarily excited to do, whether it's a chore that you really don't want to do, a hard conversation you have to have, even just responding to someone's text you don't really want to respond to or something, right? You have to remember that you do harder things than that every single day. Like being a founder, we do hard shit all the time. So then it's like, oh wait, the hardest part of my day is mentally is really like having to do my laundry. Like, no, it's not. I do harder shit all the time. Go do your fucking laundry. It's as easy as that. Secondly, when you have really big things that seem like they're actually really hard, you can just tell yourself in the back of your head, "No, I can do that. I'm so much more capable than that. I woke up at 5 in the morning and ran a half marathon with no music, with nothing, just off the couch, and I did it. Of course I can do whatever this thing is that's in front of me. Like I'm capable." So I think that's really important as well. It's just like doing weird challenges like that to prove to yourself that you can do those things.
I completely agree with you. Stefan, as I've talked to you longer, I wanna get a beer with you or drink coffee with you more. Uh, we'll continue on here. I got a couple more questions for you, but one of the things I wanna do before asking any of those questions is answer something that your dad told you, that you wrote here, and the question that I prompted this was, like, spiritually, what guides you? I'm curious, like, are you a spiritual, religious person? Are you neither? And you responded with something that said, I let my interests guide me. My dad told me when I was young that if you want to live a life where money is no concern, you can do it in any industry. If you make it to the top, let's say 1% of your industry, you make $1 million dollars a year, guaranteed. Whether you're the top 1% in fly fishing or quant trading, you will make enough money to not have to worry about money. So find something that you're interested in and let that interest and natural desire propel your work ethic. It will make it easier for you to rise to the top. Instead of just seeing the big numbers that analysts make right out of college working in finance, if finance doesn't interest you, fuck it. You'll make that much soon enough doing whatever it is that interests you. Your life will be better if you just always do what motivates you. Chills. How important is your dad to you? And then just unpack that for me.
Yeah, totally. I mean, my dad is extremely important to me. He's, been the rock in my life. He's a really hard worker, which has definitely rubbed off on me, or at least it's been the model, I guess you could say. But yeah, he has some really good kind of nuggets of wisdom. I'm not gonna, give him all the credit for that quote. I think that that's a Malcolm Gladwell quote, but nonetheless, I think it really does apply, right? Like, I went to a small liberal arts college. I was on the lacrosse team. All of my friends were from the East Coast, and everyone was just working on their finance interviews throughout college and just really grinding the whole investment banking system. And it never seemed to me that they really like that that's what they wanted to do with their life. That was just the route that they chose because they saw it and it seemed achievable and it seemed like a very achievable way to make a lot of money and have a nice house in Greenwich when you're older. And on the other hand, I have always been interested in just like kind of doing my own projects and things like that. You can ask anyone from high school or middle school. I've always been just a weird guy trying to scheme my way into a business. It just seemed like two extremely different paths to me, like two extremely different paths. And obviously they went and graduated and they're making a bunch of money on Wall Street right now. And I'm quite far behind in that sense. It's like, yeah, dude, when we're 30 or when we're 40, we'll both have mansions with our wives. I don't know. It's just like, are you, really like you want to live your whole life doing this thing that doesn't interest you just so that we can have the same house? Why don't you
No,
just have the
it
confidence in
resonates.
yourself to be able to go and do whatever it is that you want to do? You're going to work hard. I know you. You're going to work hard. You're capable. You're smart. You're strong. You're going to go be good at whatever it is you're doing. And when you're good at whatever it is you're doing, people pay you to do that thing. It's just like a no-brainer to me.
The question you want to ask yourself as and it takes a lot of awareness to do this as a 22-year-old who's looking for their jobs or 21, 20-year-old looking for an internship. It's like, where do I want to be when I'm 30 and 40? Not just where I'm 25. Because the entry level job that you might not love, it's a tough way to sustain that. My older brother was a professional baseball player. He played Division I collegiately at Northwestern, and he jumped into the law practice of something that my dad does in family law. But he worked in a firm that he never truly loved as much as he loved the sport of baseball. And that's a thing that not many people can ever experience, is like loving what you do on the daily, loving the grind. And then when you go into something that is, call it, normal, the 9 to 5, where you're still getting paid a great amount of money and your service is providing a ton of value, but it's not allowing you to feel fulfilled, and you can just feel your internal compass and your soul just shrivel. You need to let that soul shine. You need to let your light shine. And I want to segue that into just asking you, like, do you feel you're a spiritual, religious person, or do you feel that you just kind of are guided by whatever internally drives you?
Yeah, it's a good question. And just, to wrap a bow on that last topic, I think that it doesn't have to be that, you have to go off the beaten path and create a startup. If you're listening to this and you're in college or something like that, just major in whatever you want to, major in whatever is very interesting to you. If that's biology, go major in biology. If it's real estate, that's awesome. Go major in real estate. But it doesn't have to be necessarily like go take this massive, massive risk and try to build a startup and try to raise money and yada yada yada. You can do it another way. Just that's all that I'm saying. Yeah, so I'm from Boulder, Colorado, and obviously that's a very kind of hippy dippy town historically. I did go to church growing up. We were Christian, but when I was growing up, my Sunday school every week, our kind of Sunday school leader told us that she wasn't religious, she was spiritual, and I thought that that was a really good way to kind of guide my life when I was younger because I wasn't necessarily all that interested in God or Scripture or Jesus, but I was interested in the values that you kind of attain from practicing religion, right? Which is, just be a good person, do unto others as you would do unto yourself. Don't cheat on your wife, don't kill anyone. Just be a good guy.
Bare
And
minimum.
yeah, it's gonna bare minimum. It's just bare minimum stuff, right? But yeah, so I would say that I'm spiritual. I think that I do believe in kind of a lot of universe things. One of the biggest things that I believe in is that whatever you put out into the world, you receive. So like the energy that you put out is something that you receive back, right? If you put all of your energy directed towards getting this certain internship, whatever it is, and you work really hard at it, you can't just, BS your way into that, but you actually put a lot of your real energy into this thing, whatever it is, or whether it's finding a relationship or whether it's X, Y, and Z, that comes back to you, right? And the only thing that you have to make sure of that you're doing is putting really high quality energy and focusing it onto that thing. Some people call it manifestation. I just think of it as like the universe out there exists and it comes, and as long as you push out whatever you push out comes back into you. So that's kind of my spirituality.
I'm amazed by that response because It's almost like you believe the universe is a mirror, right? Like you will see what you get, and you will get what you see, which is just the I mean, I can go down this rabbit hole for hours, but I love that response, and it's a key driver. Being able to just having the internal wherewithal to just wanna be a good person and just do good onto others, it allows you to be an entrepreneur and to try and create value because, there's a pain point. You wanna solve this pain, and in a day and age with technology and being able to use your wits to help out people around the world and maybe make a buck off of it, that is something that gravitates towards you and for me. And so I love that answer a lot. All right, we're approaching here at the end, but honestly, this is a great conversation. And I want to get more into sports. And this is going to be one, maybe two more questions. And it's nothing too serious, but this could be one of the most highly controversial topics that you can talk to with another man, Jordan or LeBron.
I want Iguodala. No, I'm kidding. Jokic is actually the greatest player of all time. He is a defensive unit, which a lot of people don't really realize, especially in the playoffs. I think, his playoff average is averaging like 3 steals a game or something like that. He's a great defensive unit. I'm just going to preface it there because we're about to jump into his offensive statistics. Jokic is the most efficient offensive player of all time. I mean, he's beating out Bill Walton, Bill Russell, Hakeem, whoever all these big men are that I'm blanking off the top of my head right now.
Wilt Chamberlain, I would assume.
Wilt is the big one that I was just missing. He's doing what Wilt wasn't doing. I mean, it's no longer a debate about is Jokic a top 5 player in the league. It's now a debate about is Jokic a top 5 player of all time. I mean, he's the best center that's ever lived. He has more points per game than Shaq in his best season. He has more, rebounds per game. I'm forgetting all these statistics, but he's basically the best center that's ever played. He had a 56 point, 16 rebound, 15 assist game against the T-Wolves on Christmas Day. If you haven't seen that game, go watch the highlights. It's an instant classic. Jokic he should be a 4-time MVP after this year. And he should be a 2-time NBA champion if it weren't for the Thunder in Game 7 last year. By the way, we were up by 10 going into the fourth on them in Game 7. Yeah, that's where I'm going to go with that. What about you? What do you think?
Well, first off, I love the passion behind that answer. I think Jokic, I'm not a humongous NBA watcher like every single day as much as I am with NFL or with MLB. I did watch that Christmas game actually, and Jokic is just amazing because he can do everything, and he's also like he moves like methodically and slowly, and you just see him just like dish it out perfectly. He's in every place he needs to be, and the pass goes right where it needs to go every single time. It's an art to watch him play. But
Absolutely.
I'm a resounding Michael Jordan answer. And I used to be a lot more, contentious on this. If you said LeBron, it was personal, but I realized that it just has to do with how you see greatness and how I see greatness and the information that you possess here. Look, I get it. I never saw Michael Jordan play. My older siblings did. My dad did. Everyone around here talks about this god that was Michael Jordan. And then I watched something like Last Dance, which sure, people are like, oh, it's just a documentary series that was brought to you by Jordan. Like, wait till LeBron's one comes out. So what? He can rationalize all of his losses and he can talk about why he left Cleveland and like how he goes and forms these teams. But the argument is not against LeBron. It's the fact that I attack my day with the same intentions as Jordan did. At least that's how I try and possess it. And people's like, oh, but Mamba mentality. Mamba mentality doesn't exist without Jordan mentality. Jordan
Mm.
is what Kobe Bryant wanted to be. No disrespect to Kobe. Kobe and Jordan are cut from the same cloth. If you say Kobe's the GOAT, I think that we're like cousins, you know? But it's Michael Jordan. It's the guy who once he started winning, once he learned how to win, and you can make the case, oh, but he needed Pippen, oh, but he needed Phil Jackson, oh, but he played in the 90s. The circumstances are always going to be a variable. But I look at how do you deal with the circumstances? Because Michael Jordan, he's not a leader that's like, hey, man, you're good. Come on, let's get this going. He's a leader that is going to push himself harder every single day. And if you're in the gym with him, you have to ask yourself one of two questions. It's either I owe it to myself to push myself to the greatness standard, or I got to owe it to him. And usually he puts that pressure on the team and the facility and the front office to do everything in their power to make sure that they can win. And look, I think LeBron's a phenomenal player. If you believe in longevity and you think that that's the goal, to just play at a high level for your whole career, that's awesome. But Jordan, from a spiritual and emotional standpoint, it is so hard to win one championship. Do you know how hard it is to win 2 in a row? That whole entire offseason, your team is able to just do whatever they want. They're the champs. Everyone else is gunning for you the next year, but you hold the team to the same standard. And then you do it for the 3rd straight. No one's ever done that. So then he retires. And LeBron guys will say, oh, well, it's because, he was gambling and they had to kick him out of the league. Whatever you want to believe, he retired. And he retired at that time as the GOAT. There and then, he was the GOAT at that time. And then he goes to play baseball, whatever, comes back, half a season, loses to the Magic. And he just puts his head down. He films Space Jam. He puts all of his time and energy into being the greatest ever. He's not the same young guy that's able to do, like he did at the dunk contest with the gold chain wrapped around his neck and he's doing the reverse. He is still a freak of nature, but this guy just knew how to play basketball. He just knew how to win the game. And he won 3 straight again, and then he retired. What more do you need to do? He won 6 straight championships in 6 full seasons. That's my case. Look, no disrespect to Jokic, but Game 7 last year, he didn't close it out. And I'm not saying it's because Jokic isn't great. I'm just saying Jordan had this button about him, and Brady had that button. Tiger has that button. And the greats, I was asked yesterday in the pod, oh, do you think Wemby's going to be the GOAT? If Wemby's got the button, maybe. But Roy Williams said in Last Dance, and he said Michael Jordan, even when he knew him at North Carolina, he's like, this guy had a switch and he never freaking turned it off. And I mean, man, does that not get you freaking going?
It does. I think that we're all aspiring to be able to find that switch within ourselves and be able to build that switch within ourselves. I mean, I think we're all aspiring to be able to do that, right? So it's a good argument. It's a good argument. It's a great case. I think it's a better story than it is a case for the GOAT. But hey, I like what you were saying.
At the end of the day, a story is your legacy, and a legacy is all we're remembered by. So
this is true.
My last question to you, we're at the 50-minute mark. We're officially at the longest podcast that we've currently ever had on Let's Get At It. Let's get going. And it's about Smartbettor.ai. We have Denver playing against the Bills this weekend. It's a tough matchup because the Bills are the team where now they don't have the big bad Chiefs to, stop them in their tracks. They finally have the red carpet rolled out for them. Do the Broncos get it done? And my second question, from a Smartbettor.ai's value perspective, what's the pick that all these listeners should be eyeballing in terms of value for this weekend?
All right. So the Stefan model, aka me, I think so the Broncos win 17-10. I would take the under 28.5. It's probably like 9-1. I think the Broncos win 17-10, and I think Josh Allen throws a pick. Let's check what the actual algorithm thinks the best bet of the game is. Let's see. Game totals.
Are you sipping that Bo Nix Kool-Aid?
I am. Under 42.5. Under 42.5 is going to be the official Smartbettor lock. Let's get at it. Let's take out a mortgage on your house. Underneath your mom's name. Don't tell her. Take out a mortgage on the house. Put it on under 42.5. Double your money. Buy 2 houses.
I love it. Amazing. Stefan, you are an absolute pleasure. Talking to you has been fantastic. I look forward on having you on potentially again in the future. Potentially we get Christian on, and we'll probably get Mike on as well. Maybe we have a full team podcast. I'm not necessarily sure, but you have been awesome to talk to. Thank you so much for coming on.
Let's go, Drew. Thanks so much for having me. It's been a pleasure talking to you. You're a silver-tongued fox, like I said before. So I really appreciate it. And
thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for putting up with me.
The modern day Winklevoss and Stefan Feiler. I'm Drew Ruffin.
Thank you.
Signing off. Peace.